Hello guys, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be discussing the two-sum problem. So let's look at the problem first and see what it talks about. So here's the problem. I found the problem now. Let's read the problem first. To sum given an array of integers, nouns, and an integer target, written indices of the two numbers is that they add up to target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. So we have some examples here. Let's try to understand the example. The first example that we have here is 2, 7, 11, 15. 1 second, let me share my drawing board. Okay, so the first example that we have here is the 2, 7, 11, 15. Okay, 2, 7, 11, and 15, right? This is the array that we have. Now it talks about output 0, 1. Your target is 9, right? So when we iterate, the easiest way to solve the problem, it says, as you see, you can also see in the question, it says return the indices of the two numbers. So the output here for these two is 0, 1. Let's solve this problem input. First, let's just, if this is our input array, how we can solve this problem? Let's look at each element first. Number 2. So number 2, the target will be to add up to the target, right? So your target will be when number is 2, your target is equal to 2 plus x is equal to 9, right? So that gives you x is equal to 9 minus 2. So that would be what? 7. So let's create an output array to understand the problem. Number is 7, and output array would be what? For 2, it would be 7. Then for 7, it would be, for 7, it would be 2, right? 11. 11, 9 minus 11, so that would be what? 10, 11 minus 2, and 15. So 15 would be 6 minus 6. These would be, so if you add these numbers, you add number 2 to number 7, you get 9. 7 plus this element number 2, 9. 11 plus minus 2, 9, 10, 11. And 9, 9 we're trying to get, right? So 9 minus 6, 9, that would be 9 minus x is equal to what? 15. So 9 minus of minus 6 would be equal to 15, right? So this one would be minus 6, right? This would be our output array. Now, how do we solve this problem? The easiest way to solve this problem would be to, okay, the easiest way to solve this problem is, this is our input array, and 2, 7, 11, 15. I can go to number 2. I can iterate, use an iterator, right? Go to number 2. In case of number 2, what do I do? 2 plus x is equal to 9. So x is equal to 9 minus 2, That would be x is equal to 7. So for first one, if we add 0, then we see, okay, 7 is what we need, right? So the two numbers that we need to add to get the target to 9 is which one? 2 and 7. So we see if 7 is already present in the array. Yeah, 7 is already present in the array, which is the second element. And the indices for this one is 0, 1, 2, 3. So we our one output is 0, comma 1. If you use this, you get the target as 9. Let's see if there's any other value that brings out the target 9. There's only going to be one subset in the problem, but there could be many. So let's just, visit those situation as well. But in case, there are multiple numbers that add up to 9. So 7 plus 2. Okay, that could be 1, comma 0. 11 minus 2. So is minus 2 present in this particular array? No, it's not present. So we don't have a tuple, right? 15, to get to 9, we need minus 6. Is minus 6 present in this array? No. So the only two tuples that we get are these, and this is the first one, right? So let's take first one, and this would be our answer. Now, how we can solve this problem? Solving this problem is very easy. So let's look into the complexity as well, right? Complexity analysis. Now, complexity analysis, what we can do is I can have 2, 7, 11, 15, and then have 2, 7, 11, 15. And I can run a for loop. So every time 2 plus 2 I check is 4, which is not the target. 2 plus 7 is the target. So I store the indices 0, comma 1. Then set 2 plus 11 does that give us the target? No. 2 plus 15, that's 17, doesn't go up to the target. Then we go to check with number 7. So number 7 plus 2, 9. So 1, comma 0. But this tuple, if you see, is already present, right? We have already got this one. This one is the same as that one. So we discard this, right? Now 11 plus 2 is what? 13. So if 11 plus 2 is 13 and these are sorted arrays, then your number is always going to be greater than 9. So 15 plus 2, 17. Again, this is an ascending order. Any other number you add to that, it's always going to be greater. So there's no point looking into that, right? But still in that case, since we're going to be using for loop, as we are comparing each number with the other number in the array, our total complexity to traverse over this one would be what? N, O of N, this array. Then total complexity to traverse over this array would be O of N. So if you see O of N into N, my total complexity comes out to be O of N square, right? Now let's see if I can also reduce the overall complexity in this particular problem. So what can I do? 2, 7, 11, 15, right? And this one, what I can do is first take the number 2, and second number would be 2 plus x equal to 15, x equal to 9. Forgive me. 2 plus x equal to 9, that gives us 7, 2 comma 7. So next number would be 7. Now I can see in rest of my array, is this number already present? If 7 is present in rest of my array, then it's a um, basically it's if that number is present, then yes, it can, we can make it work. Now, how do we check if 7 is present in the array or not? What is the best way? The one way what we can do is we can all add all these numbers to a hash map. So 2, 7, 11. I can also do like 2, 7, 7, 2, 11 minus 3, and 15 minus 6. Key value pairs, I can do hash map, right? In case of hash map, I pick up the first key, 2, 7. So is 7 present in the array? I can go across the array O of 1. I can pick up each number and then go across the array. I can do that, or I can use, let's see, what else can we do? This particular case, 2 and then 7. So 2 plus 7 is 9, but I don't want to iterate it O of n square. I want to go one time. So, mm, 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 do we have the given condition that these two arrays are going to be in ascending order, array of integers and less than two numbers add up? So the question does not say that the array is going to be in ascending order. Just the example is in ascending order, so we cannot assume. So what I can do is uh, hash I can calculate, or I can see if, or I can just iterate over this array. So when I have two, right, what I do is I store two in a, let's just say in a list, right? Let's just say I have an array list and I store two in my array list. Now, when I come to 7, what I will do is for 7 to come up to 9, I need another number that I need is 2. So I will go to the array list and check if 2 is present. If it contains 2, then that means, that 0, comma 1. So 2, or I can do hash map and create a key of the indexes. 2 is present at an index 0. Then 7 comes. 7 is present at an index of 1. But when we get 7, we look for 2 and we see if HashMap already contains number 2. Yes, it does contain number 2. So our lookup in case of HashMap would be O of 1, right? And for this whole array to traverse and then store in the HashMap, my overall complexity would be O of n to traverse this array. So I can make it happen in O of n. But now, first time when we were doing, traversing this particular array, what was happening was 2, 7, 11, 15. So this is an array that already exists, right? This is our input array. We were not using any extra space to solve this problem, right? Now, in case if I use hash map, I'll be storing all these entries into the hash map. So for that, my space complexity would go up to O of n. Initially, since this is already given, my complexity was O of 1. So if I use O of 1, I can achieve a time complexity of O of n square. If my space complexity is O of 1. But if I add extra space, I use a hash map and my space complexity goes O of n, then I can achieve the resultant time complexity of O of n, right? So these are two important things in this one. Now let's look into the example. Let's write a program to see how we can make this work. One second, put it on the screen. So let's just do public static void main. Right? I'm gonna write programs in Java. So I'm gonna create an initial array, which is an integer array, and I'm gonna call it data is equal to new array of how many elements? We had four elements at the start, and my elements were so data of 0. I can do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and add every element, or I can also do this and add 2, 7, 11, 15. Right? So now my array would have these four elements in the array. Okay. It's giving an error. Let's just see expected. Okay, so there's no need to define the size. I'm sorry for that. And what I do is I'm going to create a method, public void index. Now, when I return the index, it says I should be returning a list, or what is it asking for? Let me check what kind of output do they want. We can return an integer array, the output. Like, so this is our return type, and to sum, where my input to this array is going to be data, or let's just name it input for simple, for ease, right? Then what I do is, okay, so I create basically an object of my class to call that particular method program. And I do program dot to sum, right? And I give it this input that we call as data. Okay, and then what I do is whatever response that I get out of this, I want to write to the console. Println. Now let's go here. We're going to try the first method first, where we had two integers, two for loops, space complexity n square. I is equal to 0. I is less than input dot length plus for equal to 0. A plus. Okay. Now what I do is my target, we forgot about the target. So I'm going to create another variable here that's called target, which is equal to number 9. And I'm going to pass this target to my problem, to my toSum method. And since we haven't defined it here, it's going to throw us an error. So we define it here. So now I have the target. And what I'm going to do is if so input I plus input of j is equal to my target, then you create a brand new array, which will be an integer array of size, say 2, right? And this would be called as integer result, and store, I want result to have two values that are going to be two different index for the two values. So the first index would be I, and the second index would be j here, right? And once I've added these two numbers to the array, I can return result. Do a return no, right? So if I run this program now, public static void main, okay, there's a problem here, forgot to put string arguments. Now if we run this program, instead of two string, I'm gonna do I'm gonna store the result of this particular program in a separate mm, integer array. Mhm. Equal to this, and two numbers would be result of 0 and result of 1. Just to make it a little more like a tuple. So 0, 1 is our result. Let's try. So we had, when we were looking at the question, we also had multiple examples or multiple inputs, you can say. So let me try another input just to make sure my program is working fine. So another input that I have now, that is 3 to 4, and my target is 6. This is supposed to be 3 to 4, and my target is 6. Now this is going to be data 1, target 1, right? And I write out, I'm going to call my program again. I'm going to name this as result 1, or I can just remove this and keep the name as result itself, so I don't have to make a lot of changes. And here I pass on 1, target 1, right? If I run this program, let's see what happens. 0, 0. But that is not correct, since my J always has to be this. So what happened was, I starts from 0 and J also starts from 0. So that's why it was showing 0, 0, because 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. But we don't want the redundant number. So what I did now was the first loop starts from 0 and the second loop starts from 1, right? So that it doesn't use the same number. Now I'm gonna run it again and try to see the output. So 1 comma 2 is my answer, and I just checked with the result. That's the right answer. And what I'm gonna do here is, so this is one way where your space complexity is O of 1, and your time complexity, because of the two loops, is gonna be O of n square, right? Let's try another way to solve the same problem. To sum 2. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one for loop, right? And every time my for loop runs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a hash map, right? Integer, comma, integer. So the first integer is going to be my number. Second one is the index, as we discussed earlier. And let me name this as data is equal to new hash map. All right. Now every time I start with I, what I'm gonna do is whether that particular number is found. When you start with the array, whether the particular number has found the companion or not, we just store it in the hash map. So might be put. So that would be input of I, which is my key, and my index would be what? Just I, right? Now, when I find, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna change this one just a little, and if I'm gonna do target minus, the number one, data dot I, right? The value I, and it should be input actually and not data. Okay, if my input of I minus the target, if this number is contained, so data dot contains key, if it contains this key, right, then that means that whatever number, so after 7, if number 2, we need to come up to the target of 9, number 2 is already present and was visited. That's why it's in the hash map. So if we come to number 7 and we see number 2 is already present in the hash map, we know that there exists a tuple that can be and used as the result, right? So we come to the result if contains key. Then what we do is the first one we take, so the first one we take data, right? We try to get the index, right, of that number. So data dot get key would be what? Key would be, or what was our key? Let's see again. Target minus the input. That's our key. So we store the index into result 0, and then for this I, second one will be what? I, right? Because I is the gonna be the new number. Okay, so we in the result or we return now. And what is this complaining about? Probably. Okay, so let's just see if this one works for us. This is the solution for space complexity O of n and time complexity O of n. So instead of 2 sum, I replace it with 2 sum 2. And let's see what response we get. So we have the same problem where in the second input 0 comma 0. So 3 is added, and then I of 0 input total length I plus plus and 0 if we is added, data contains key 6 minus 3 3. Yes, it does. So instead what I can do is I can probably add this before I return the results or something, before the comparison and not after the comparison, right? And why is that an issue? So cannot load from integer array because the result is not cannot load from result array. Mm. Oh, this one is returning an issue because the result array is null. But let me see what happened here. So we take up the input, we check if the target minus the input value is already contained in data. If not, if it's not contained, then you just go for another. There should be a for loop and it should go to the second. Why is this breaking? It contains and go. Right now it doesn't contain, so it shouldn't go inside. Okay, let me check this solution once. Let me debug the problem. So let's see. First, my index is 0. Does it contain? No, it does not contain 2. Then it goes. But yeah, that's the problem, right? That it won't add data output this. It has to add that number before the result, irrespective of. Okay, so let me do this. Let me move this result out, and I'm gonna do. Another one. Data output. Integer would be what? What do we put? We put input of I and the index I in that. Okay. So let's make it run again and see what happens. So you see 0, comma 1 and 1, comma 2. So we had the second solution that takes up some space but has a better time complexity. So these are two different ways you can solve this problem. And with that, we will end this video. If you have any questions, do let me know and I can answer them for you. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you understood. I was able to help you understand the problems. Thank you. Bye-bye.